Hello and welcome to this podcast on participation, community and collaboration in the online classroom as part of our series of podcasts all about online education and online schooling. Today we're going to take a closer look at a revealing study carried out earlier this year by the Cambridge research team on how online schools reduce isolation for learners and build a sense of community amongst their students. Joining me on the podcast is Matt James, the head of online education at Cambridge. And we have two of the schools who took part in the research who are going to talk about how the best practice they identified plays out in their classrooms every day. We have Amita Mehrotra from 21K School in India and Candice Spengler from Evolve Online School in South Africa. Welcome to you all. So Matt, if we can start with you first, why did you decide to commission this research initially?
Well, when we approve online schools, we get a real insight into the quality of the teaching and learning which goes on. And we like to see how a school's practice evolves over time. Because one of the criticisms of full-time online schooling is sometimes that students are isolated, working from their home environment, and they've got limited opportunity to develop social skills and form relationships with their peers. We know anecdotally that this isn't true, and that our Cambridge online schools work very hard to provide social opportunities as well as to ensure that students are engaged in the classroom. But we wanted to explore in more depth how this happens. So we engaged our Cambridge research team to carry out a study on this, and we'll be running a webinar in February which will go into the detail of the methodology of the research and review the findings in more detail. More about that later. But broadly, the team organised their findings into 4 different themes. Number 1 was affiliation and connectivity. Number 2, participation. Number 3, spirit and trust. And finally, number 4, knowledge sharing.
Great. So it'd be interesting to look at each of those separately, if that's okay. So on affiliation and connectivity, which were the key points that stood out to you, Matt?
Yeah, well, one of the biggest challenges for online schools trying to help students feel connected and like they belong is the sheer fact that they come from many different cultural backgrounds. It's very easy for a new student to feel this is not my tribe and just to stay silent in their lessons. So one of the things the research found out is that non-learning talk is so important in the online classroom. Giving students the opportunity to share details of their lives and experiences outside school really helps everyone feel more connected and they start to find common ground. Similarly, project work and opportunities to meet virtually outside of normal lessons are also important.
That does sound really important. So it'd be good to turn to our 2 schools now. Amita, Candice, how do you help students feel connected to their peers when they join? And Candice, let's start with you.
Okay, well, online learning has been such an incredible space, actually, in seeing kids connect not only within the classroom space, but also just geographically. We do have children from all over South Africa and also some students in Europe and in Asia. And what's been really amazing to see is how kids have a common goal to just hang out and have some fun together. And what we've noticed in our school is that kids will spontaneously create little breakout sessions or little class hangouts where they'll build a Minecraft world together, or they'll play Galactic Phone and maybe even pull in a teacher to join them and have some fun. I landed up playing the game Among Us with my IGCSE students for the first time and was completely in my depth trying to be an imposter with these I was so bad at this game. But the students were so helpful and like kind of holding my hand, and we just got to hang out. And that's also where you get to form connections and to get to know one another deeper. And then from there, the classroom space can come alive. And that's what we've noticed at our school.
Perfect. And that's just good teaching, isn't it? At making the classroom come alive. I love that as a saying. Amita, so the same question to you. How do you help students to connect?
So thank you for the question, Adam. I would just like to say that the 21K school has a very strong foundation when it comes to building connection and sharing the learner-centric values. Now, we are proud to share that we have a space which is created that the learners and the facilitators feel well connected to each other and to the school community. So I agree with Candice when she said that there are online spaces where learners get to talk to each other, there are games, there are activities planned. But then in addition to providing them with the online spaces such as school assemblies, clubs, and any additional activities that is happening beyond the classroom, which is the non-learning, non-academic spaces, we do offer them an offline opportunity to connect in spaces, physical, come out and look for the trips, and school sports days are there where they can come and connect with their peers, connect with the facilitators. So yes, see, when the learner feels that they are seen, they are heard, they're valued, I feel that is the time that they feel connected.
That's nice. It's nice to hear that it's not just all about school and you provide those spaces, those extracurricular activities for them to connect. That sounds great. Matt, so the next theme of the research was participation. What can you tell us about that one?
Yeah, this is an interesting one because I think the fear of failure can be heightened sometimes in the online classroom where you can't see those body language signals so easily. So it's really important that teachers allow a variety of communication methods in the lessons. So, for example, a student might, rather than speak their answer and articulate it that way, they might respond in the chat, might be in the group chat. But also for a nervous student, they might prefer the ability to respond to the teacher directly with a private chat message. That might help to build their confidence. And similarly, the teacher allowing the whole class to respond to a prompt rather than picking on one student. All these things can help with participation. And I think it's all about setting ground rules. And of course, there's that big question about whether cameras should be always on or whether a student who feels less comfortable can turn their camera off. The ground rules are really important to set from the start.
Yeah, I can totally understand that. I always remember the fear of not knowing the answer in school and hoping the teacher didn't pick on me. And then it always seemed to be those. If I looked terrified and like I definitely didn't know the answer, I was going to get picked. Candice, Amita, let's come to you and talk about participation. Amita, I'd like to come to you first. How do you encourage student participation?
So we have a very robust communication system when it comes to one-to-one communication with the peers or, sharing messages with the facilitators. It's not just about the academic rigor, but yes, as Matt highlighted, that there are important points or ground rules that we have for the class participation. Switching on the camera is being one of them because it is a direct indication that you are having an engaging class right at the moment. And given the fact that we have different styles of learning, different learners are of different types, so we do give them a flexibility of either typing your answers in the chat, or you can either raise your digital hands and maybe the facilitator will give you a chance to speak up. We do have collaborative whiteboard sharing that happens within the classroom so that at any given point in time, if they just want to come up to the board, scribble their ideas, rather than speaking or just, raising the hand. So that is also a good option to, open up to the discussions that are happening in the class. But having said that, yes, ground rules are in place in terms of how, respectful communication that should happen in the class, not the use of the appropriate language. That is one of the things. And the very fact that the learners are coming from different geographical location, different cultures, that understanding of mutual respect should be very much there, and to listen to the other perspective is also something that we really pay attention to.
So you definitely reflected the points that Matt said, that it's about the ground rules and the respecting other people's views and opinions. Okay, so Candice, let's come to you now on participation. How do you encourage it in the virtual classroom?
I think it does get challenging when you do have students who have chosen the online option because of possible bullying cases in other schools or a very horrific experience in certain spaces of their education or trauma that they're busy going through. So that's where the ground rules is helpful, but also where we need to make exceptions in those cases. And I think what we've tried to foster at our school is always having like the power of yet. So if a child is unable to put the camera on, we're like, okay, you're not there yet. Okay, what steps do we need to take in order to get you there? Or, okay, is it going to I'm first engaging in the chat, and then I'm going to engage by unmuting, and then I'm going to put my hand up. So we generally try to transition kids to the full engagement space. And for some kids it goes quicker, and some kids it goes slower. But I think the key is always actually, having your basis, but being open to trying new things, being an innovative teacher. You cannot use the same system. This is what works and this is what I'm going to use. You have to think out the box sometimes, because we're dealing with so many diverse kids. So in terms of participation, sometimes teachers need to come to class wearing wild hats and funky clothes just to make a fool of themselves, so that the kids go, okay, well, if the teacher's doing that, then maybe I can put my hand up. So it's also just creating a safe and fun, engaging space. I think that's where the key to participation comes.
Yeah, and I like that you picked up on the fact that everybody moves at their own rate, and they might not be there yet, but it's something that they can look to for the future, and it's always a process. That's great. Okay, so let's move on to spirit and trust now. Matt, what stood out to you here from the research?
Yeah, this is an interesting one, because I think, spirit and trust in a classroom community builds over time, really. It doesn't happen overnight. So the students might be participating, they might feel some connection, they found some common ground through that non-learning talk, but building up that, establishing that trust does take a while. One of the things the research found was some of it comes from opportunities in the classroom to share different opinions and ideas, and building the culture that all viewpoints are equally valued. So things like group work are really important. Peer mentoring sessions where the students can support each other and support each other's learning. And also those clubs that we mentioned before happening outside of the formal curriculum. All those things help to build this trust and supportive culture, both between students and between students and their teachers.
That totally makes sense, Matt. Amita, Candice, I'm interested in your thoughts on this. So how does this play out in your school with spirit and trust? And Amita, let's start with you again.
So basically, the facilitators and the learners, when they are in the classroom or outside the classroom or even in the physical spaces, there is an establishment of a rapport between the two. The very fact that the learners are coming from a different location, they are from different cultures, we do have that factor of mutual respect. Now, coming to the group tasks that are assigned to the learners, it kind of strengthens the bond between them. There is the core value of teamwork, and which actually enables them to come up with their ideas, come up with their viewpoints on a similar, project. For example, I can give you, let's say there's a project on science wherein they have to collaboratively work and get the data. Now, once the data is out after the collection, they have to do some analysis on it, come out with some experimentation points or infer from the data. So doing the simple task, which is looking like a group project, though a simple group project, but the skills that the learners build while doing this group project is immense. So they do talk to each other through the portal messages, one-to-one chats are happening. The Zoom meetings are scheduled to discuss further on how the data collection has happened. How are they looking at the similar thing from different viewpoints? Because that is important. And not only the group projects happen like for the subject that I've mentioned, there are also case studies, Adam, where they look at the real life scenarios. So they talk about what is happening in one part of the country and what is the viewpoint of the other person on the same, a case study. There is one thing that I firmly believe in, that having the diverse opinion and having the different viewpoints is something which is at the heart of being truly educated in a global context, right? So that is what we firmly believe at the school. Now, one point that was highlighted in the previous question, that there are learners who will not switch on the camera, who will not speak whatever you do in the classes. So there could be some other reasons which we try to understand as a part of a different department in the school, that we try to understand what could be the issues, why the learner is not opening up, even during the group assessments or assignments that are designed. So we try our best to understand it from the other learner's perspective. There could be personal reasons, there could be something related to, social anxiety issues. So we try to address those points as well. Yeah.
No, that's excellent. I think you hit on a great point there, that it's this different opinions and different viewpoints are the key to education. The key to being able to think critically is analysing all these different opinions and viewpoints. But of course, to be able to feel like your opinion matters or to share it with your class, you have to have a lot of trust there between peers and the teacher. So it's great to hear that you're facilitating that in the virtual class. So Candice, can I come to you for the same question? How does this play out in your school?
Yeah, since Amita tackled the academic space, I'll just speak about the more extracurricular avenue where we've been building spirit and trust in our schools. So we have two projects that I probably will mention. The first one is called our Writers Club. It was our first club because we're quite a young school, so it's fun to build together collaboratively with the parents, with the students, taking in their feedback. So it's quite an exciting space to be in. So this is our first official club. It's completely student-led. Teachers just sit in the background and have fun. The kids run the entire session. They create the teaching presentations. They think of creative ways to pull in their friends. They make polls. They do games. It's just been a really wonderful space. And they've created such an identity amongst themselves that they now have their voice heard in our school newsletter. And the hope is to create their own newsletter. But other kids have heard about them. And so now they've started other clubs in response. So it's been a wonderful space to kind of see kids owning, hey, I want to also be part of something. And I also want to, build as part of the school. So that's been a really exciting space that we've seen growth. And the second one is we call it a power week. We kind of have it at the end of every term where we like to power up and upskill the parents and the students. Initially, it started with teachers sharing their passions. It was baking or doing exercise, or we landed up going to a penguin sanctuary virtually this year. So it's just becoming a space where kids can put forward an idea of what they're interested in, and we can try and find someone to do it. And if we can't, then the kids have been starting to run their own workshops, and then they train other kids on how to crochet. I tried that workshop and I was absolutely horrible. Again, I'm like, this is for like beginners, and I was the slowest student in that class. But it's just the fact that it's consistency. And I think that's also what you guys have mentioned is ground rules. If you have a consistent space where you're carving out opportunity for people to participate, to engage, to find a collaborative kind of key or golden thread that keeps them together, and you keep revisiting, you keep giving people an opportunity to buy in and share their knowledge, then you definitely are building spirit and trust in a very meaningful way.
Yeah, I agree. It sounds really lovely that you give the students the opportunity to talk about something they're passionate about and run workshops for other people. There's something very contagious about watching someone talk passionately about something they love, so it's a great way to bring it to the other students. Okay, and finally, we're on to the last part of the research that Matt mentioned. This is knowledge sharing. Matt, do you want to talk to us about knowledge sharing?
Yeah, so here we'll probably see some of the same points as we've made in other areas, but the research focused on the importance of having productive discussions in the classroom and that happening by the teacher encouraging the students to challenge each other and to share different opinions, but also, the teacher having an important role here with positive questioning. Setting ground rules once again for those discussions, important, of course, and regulating the opinion sharing and the disagreements, but really expecting equal engagement levels in the classroom across all students. In order to foster useful knowledge-sharing discussions, the group size is very important. So the teacher considering those group sizes very carefully to make sure everyone engages well.
Definitely. Okay, let's get the thoughts of Candice and Amita on that. So Candice, let's come to you first. How do you encourage students to share the knowledge?
Yeah, I think Matt is correct in saying like size is critical, because you can't have groups that are too big, because then the quieter kids get lost. And I think it's not only size, it's also intentional planning. As a teacher, you've got to really plan the roles that you want kids to partake in. So when you're assigning some sort of collaborative discussion, I like to try and diversify the roles as well. So it gives the kids that are very confident an opportunity to show off their leadership skills. But then you also have roles that are are not as demanding in confidence levels so that you can still have a great voice and an opportunity to speak, but it's not going to overwhelm and deter you from participating. The key to having meaningful discussions with the students in classes is to have very specific roles, and also to keep it short in terms of timing. I think if you let it drag on for too long, then kids get lost on the way. And I think that's an important key, is just to have a very clear parameter of time. You guys have only got 45 minutes now. Then you're allowed to have one more session of checking up and then the next, because then people are like, ooh, we got to get this done.
It happens in the world of work as well. Unless I'm given a deadline, things don't happen. Again, it comes back to ground rules, to have those parameters in place, and then gives the students confidence to know that they can do it in that time. They have to do it in that time. Great. Amita, can I come on to you now, please? So how do you encourage students to share their knowledge?
One thing that is coming to my mind right now is how the lessons are delivered in the classroom and how the knowledge is perceived from the learner's end. So there are different ways of teaching methodologies that we try to include within the classroom. Let's say there are videos, there are interactive PPTs, there is collaboration which is happening through whiteboard. So different ways of teaching methodologies depending on the learning style of the learner. Now, when it comes to exhibiting how well have you understood the concept, learners here at the school take agency of their learning, wherein they set meaningful goals. And then we have a reflection exercise on how well did you get this, concept clear, or what are your thoughts on having those points shared by your facilitator. So giving the learners the agency of their own learning, I think this strategy is actually helping us to build even more on the factor of trust, confidence, and the very fact of that you're connected with the school. Now, knowledge sharing also happens with something called as a learner portfolio. So this is something that learners build throughout the academic year. It's not a one-time exercise. There they reflect on their knowledge or on their learning that has happened in the school, which is not just the academic part of it, but also deals with the social emotional learning, building trust and responsibility. And we are a certified habits of mind school. I'm just highlighting this point because we actually believe in holistic development of the child. Academics, yes, is an important component to the development of the learner, but alongside, there are different factors which are actually relevant when you look at the growth of the learner. And I think Candice will agree with me on this. I totally agree that when you are assigning a group task, then we have to be really mindful of the size of the group, because the bigger the group is, a lot of distractions will happen. And when you are assigning a group, I feel that you should have a total mix of different learning styles of the learner so that you get a holistic kind of response from that group task, because some of the learners are really good in speaking, while others want to, write the draft, and they're good at those things. So if we have a group that is designed considering all these factors, then it'll be good for them also to imbibe those skills and appreciate the other learner.
No, that sounds interesting. You mentioned something there that I'd not heard of before. You said certified habits of mind. Do you mind just telling me a little bit more about what that is?
So Habits of Mind School is an institute. So in total, there are 16 habits of mind. I can just name a few. Let's say you are listening with empathy, thinking about your own thinking, metacognition skills, persistence and grit. We are intentionally implementing these practices in the lesson plan so that we try to understand the different perspectives of growth that we look at the school.
That's interesting. Thank you for qualifying that. Thanks. Okay, so before we go, I've got one more question for you, Amita and Candice. Since you've taken part in the research, I'd like to know, have you changed your practices anyway? And Amita, will come to you.
Rather than changing the practices, we have made it more intense in the fact that we have the confidence now that these practices are really working at the school. So I'm proud to say that there have been many instances where learners have come to us, parents have come to us with feedback that what changes these practices have brought in their child's life. There are learners who never used to, speak and open up. But having given these agencies, group tasks, and the other practices, even the an option of connecting socially has completely changed the way the child is now. So those kind of examples have strengthened our belief that we are on the right track.
Oh, that's a great way to end the pod with some great positivity. Candice, I'll also come to you on the same question.
Well, I mean, there's a change in that I want to be more globally minded and try and make intentional connections globally with other students. Like us collaborating on that feedback session was really cool. Hearing other comments from other educators and understanding that I'm part of a bigger community with Cambridge, that was really cool. And I'd like to pursue that avenue a bit more for my students. It kind of reaffirmed the journey that I've been on. I'm like, okay, then I'm not completely like alone and hacking away at this job. Like I'm actually surrounded by people who are doing similar things and we're on the right track. So I think for me, it just gave me greater confidence to pursue things more intentionally.
Excellent. Thanks to Matt, Amita, and Candice. Unfortunately, that's all we've got time for today. Before we do go, if you'd like to hear more on this topic, we're running a webinar in February 2026, where the lead researcher on this project will outline the findings in a bit more detail. And if you're listening to this podcast after February 2026, you can listen back to the webinar recording from our Online Education Insights page on our website, or you can just go down to the comments box on YouTube and all the links will be down there as well. So don't forget to tell your friends and colleagues about us and like and subscribe on YouTube. You can also find all of our podcasts on our Online Education Insight page on our website at cambridgeinternational.org. Our show notes have lots of useful links that we've discussed throughout the episode, so be sure to take a look at them too. You can also follow us on X, LinkedIn and Instagram at CambridgeINT. Thanks for listening and we hope you join us again soon. Thank you.